I feel it's a total stranger. There's people that think, oh, maybe she knew him. I don't think so. I don't think she knows this guy. I think this smells of a stranger crime. I think he very possibly could be a serial rapist that just has never been arrested yet. And we're going to get into that. I want to give you, I've been talking for almost 7 minutes. So, Mike, I want your take on this case.
Yeah, Bill, I agree with you and the Hartford County Sheriff Davis. He believes that it's possibly not the two cases are by the single perpetrator. This is random acts of violence. He didn't. They don't believe that he particularly picked that 14-year-old girl, just like he did. They don't believe right at this point right now that he didn't pick Miss Morin. And it may be that simply that she was, and I hate to use that overused phrase, that she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that's where it stands right now. And even though we've got those DNA samples that match, many people don't realize, if you don't have someone already with their DNA in the system, it's like fingerprints. If you get fingerprints from a crime scene and fingerprints from another crime scene, but the person who left them has never been previously fingerprinted, then you have matching fingerprints, but you don't know who they actually belong to. So this is the kind of thing we're into right now. It's probable that this person may not have ever been arrested for a crime previous, wherein they were convicted, or their DNA was taken and uploaded to the CODIS system. So that makes it really difficult. But yeah, he is toast. And what we can hope for is, like you said, we know people in California know the neighborhood of that attack in March. And if someone would take a good look at that and see, does that remind them of someone in that neighborhood? It could be, even though he might not be, known to that family whose home he invaded, he may have seen in that neighborhood before. And we hope that happens. But he is toast. And sooner, unfortunately, it will be sooner or later, but he will be caught. It's really frustrating because random acts of violence are really difficult. As a homicide investigator, you know that because, when you have a kind of a stalker or a revenge kind of killing or a falling out between lovers, all things like that, then there's at least an ability to narrow down the pool of suspects to a manageable level, probably. But in this case right now, it is wide open. And that's got to make it tough from a homicide investigator's perspective.
Mike, I covered this case today on Coffee with Cannon, but I wanted to get much more in depth in today. And it's got to be confusing for people that are true crime, real crime followers, because the CODIS system is a national DNA identification system. It stands for Combined DNA Index System, and it's run by the FBI. Now, there are two categories of DNA, and that's what I think people don't understand. And one is convicted offender. Mm-hmm. So convicted offender goes into CODIS, but there's certain crimes, certain felonies that will automatically go into CODIS, and the person arrested, convicted, has no choice. It's forcibly taken if necessary. Certain misdemeanors also, but conviction. The second category of DNA, and I always want to explain this, it's forensic DNA. And the word forensic is always overused. But what does that mean in regards to CODIS? What it means is that unidentified DNA taken from crime scenes of unidentified perps that is submitted into the FBI's CODIS system. And thank God, this family that had this home invasion insisted, I would say, or the police insisted, we're going to process this DNA. We're going to have it put into CODIS. Now, an unnamed perpetrator, except guess what? His DNA is identified. So once we put a name to that DNA, he's toast. And part B to this, and I'm getting all excited, is we now have investigative genetic genealogy. And we heard of Othram Labs They're
Hmm.
one of many labs in this country that are doing miraculous work. Give them enough time and they'll ID this dirtbag from his DNA, from doing a workup in regards to investigative genetic genealogy. You want to speak upon that, Mike?
Yeah, Billy, that's very, very similar to when you think about it, the Koberger case, because they had the DNA from the knife sheath, okay, and then they didn't know who it belonged to because Koberger had never been, had his DNA taken, and then until then they had the police got DNA off of a napkin, and they realized it's a male relative of the DNA that was found at the crime scene out in Idaho on Kings Road. So this is the same kind of thing. It's a fantastic point to bring up, is that if any person in in this suspect's family has ever uploaded their DNA to like some sort of site, and the police have access to those sites, some don't allow access, some do. They could kind of maybe figure out who is a distant relative of this person and come up with a name. And that would be fantastic because that's a huge breakthrough. There's the original DNA breakthrough from the late 80s and early 90s. And now you have the genetic genealogy breakthrough, which means that even if you don't have a sample already in CODIS, like we've always relied on, Billy, for decades, genetic genealogy means that even if it's not uploaded to CODIS, if any relative of that suspect DNA it has uploaded their DNA, you may get a match that way. It's going to take a long time. This stuff isn't done over a weekend. This takes months. This is expensive, and it's got to be submitted to the proper lab to do it. But if done, there's a decent chance that someone in that extended family, I think it even goes back, they could figure out, like,
Mike, it could go back generations. They
yeah, I
can
was gonna say
build the
six
tree.
cousins, all kinds of
Yep.
stuff. It's
That
just
will lead directly
amazing.
to this perpetrator. Pammy, thanks for the 4.99 super sticker. Maybe look into Mount Riverdo Trail, sexual assault in Riverside, California, June 2023. The composite sketch looks familiar. Thank you, Pammy.
Yes.
Uh, all of this information, there's actually someone in the chat from LAPD, and hopefully he could bring back that thought from you. In California, they're calling the crime that he committed a home invasion. Now, let me explain what that is. All right. A home invasion is a burglary, and a burglary means knowingly and unlawfully enter or remain in a building with intent to commit a crime therein. That is
Mhm.
word for word the definition of burglary in New York State. Now, if you display a knife or a gun, it goes up to second degree, first degree. If you hurt someone, serious physical injury goes up to first degree. However, if someone is home, that burglary and you hurt them and you use force, that burglary immediately turns into a robbery because you just forcibly removed property. It's also still a burglary, but now add robbery first degree to that. So when they talk about home invasion, and that's why when these politicians act as if burglary is not a violent crime, it drives me out of my mind. Yeah, a criminal is going into someone's house and doesn't care whether or not they're home. It's not a violent crime. It's a property crime. That's what they define it. That drives me out of my mind. That is so, oh, don't get me going. I just think that's so ridiculous. So now someone's home. Now it's a home invasion, and now that burglary turned into a robbery because someone's home defending their castle doctrine, right?
Right.
Defending their home. And in this case in California, and I don't know this for a fact, however, I think this was probably a sexual assault also during this home invasion and the peaceful burglary that politicians call burglaries. Your thoughts, Mike?
Billy, I agree. I explained this to my students in my criminal law class, is that when you're looking at a burglary, you're looking at a person, traditionally going there at night, that sort of thing. Um, and the home has the greatest protection, enjoys the greatest constitutional protection, greatest law protection. And a person in their home, can stand their ground, can fight back. So any person, I tell my students, never think of a burglary as a property crime because so many other violent crimes are committed during a burglary when there is someone home, an elderly lady, an elderly man, a woman by herself, a kid. And it usually does not end well. And so, therefore, burglary is absolutely a violent crime. I mean, I speak of other crimes like narcotic sales as a violent crime because there's so many deaths. I saw so many deaths on the street at 3 o'clock in the morning on Tremont Avenue, Andrews Avenue. People bleeding out from headshots. These are violent activities. So a lot of things that people may think, oh, it's a harmless crime. Who's really getting hurt? It's no big deal. It's a little bit of property. Heck no, absolutely not. These are crimes that are on the very cusp of becoming a homicide. And so therefore, nobody should ever think of these crimes as property crimes and not putting anyone in danger. They are the most dangerous crimes that you can engage in as a perpetrator.
100%. William Grant. Why would he not have gotten dressed before leaving? I have doubts about the video. Looks like a young girl getting caught with an older male by her parents. Then spins a story. It happens. I have no doubt that happens, but in this case, they wouldn't have reported it. She wouldn't have reported it. Why? If she was a willing participant in this, why would they have made a report? They wouldn't have, especially a 14-year-old girl. She was assaulted. That's why she made a report. So I think we have to believe what she said. And now look at the credibility to this now. He's wanted for a murder.
Yeah.
That lends credence to the previous crime. So William Grant, thank you for your statement, but I 100% disagree with you. Michael, police off the cuff. That's how it is in Ohio. Property crime unless someone hurt. Ohio downgraded burglary. You don't want to hear something, Michael? The sickening DA in New York wanted to charge robbery first degree with a gun to a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
If no one was hurt. And then the people went nuts. They were, are you out of your mind? He wanted to do that. And I don't want people tell me I get too into the politics of it. I find that to be outrageous. The Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, wrote like an 8 or 10 page memo to his employees when he first took over, saying he intended to downgrade robbery first degree with a firearm as long as no one was hurt to a misdemeanor. Can you believe that? Where have we come? Where have we gone to in this country? If anyone could even consider that.
One episode just ain't enough.